Today's mailbag is sponsored by Hexclad. They got the best dishware game out there, and they're giving the Dog Pound 10% off when you go to hexclad.com/chatsports. Now let's get into our mailbag. Mailbag time here on the Cleveland Browns Report. First question coming in from my favorite entertainment company, Prestige Worldwide. Sign Carson Wentz or another free agent QB if Watson is out for long term. We're filming today's mailbag during our live show Tuesday at 5 o'clock Eastern. But if Watson is out long term, like if he goes on IR and is out for at least 4 games, yeah, the Browns are definitely going to do their homework on the free agent quarterbacks out there, because I don't think P.J. Walker should and could start 4 games for this team. But I don't like the idea of signing Carson Wentz. That much I am sure of. Like, Carson Wentz is a headache for teams. I don't want him to be my headache. Carson Wentz had an MVP caliber season a long time ago, but since then, he has stunk it up. And specifically, he always kind of sucks the second half of the season. Remember when he was in Indy and they were going to go to the playoffs and then they choked it away down the stretch? That's Carson Wentz at his finest right there, right? With Philly last year, with the Commanders, he was not good at the end of the season. So I'm not interested in Carson Wentz. He might be technically better, yes, than P.J. Walker, but I just don't want to be the laughingstock. And I just can't stand it if the Browns get Carson Wentz and they suck. And what people are going to say online, I don't want to go through that. I don't want to go through that. No Carson Wentz. Decline. Now, speaking of Carson Wentz, who is the most overrated quarterback in the NFL? I know that I am opening this up to a lot of jokes, but I think in order to be the most overrated quarterback in the NFL, you have to be a highly rated quarterback, right? So who's highly rated right now? Wins aren't a QB stat, but go look at Justin Herbert's record. I think he's got the most losses of any quarterback since entering the league in 2020. Put that out there. Chef Ruben, next one up. Which QB are the Browns going to sign? Brissett or Cousins? Kirk Cousins is staying in Minnesota, especially after the Vikings beat the 49ers on Monday Night Football. They are not selling. They are going to keep it together, and they're going to try and figure this out. Jacoby Brissett very well could happen. If Watson does go on IR or is expected to miss multiple weeks, I could see Andrew Berry giving Washington a call and asking the asking price for the backup quarterback for the Commanders. If Jacoby Brissett does come back, that would be a huge lift for this offense, but I maintain my stance of if Watson's only going to be out for a week or 2 max, it just doesn't make a ton of sense to me to give up a good draft pick for a quarterback that might only play 1 or 2 games max. If Watson's going to miss more time, go get Jacoby Brissett. But we have seen with P.J. Walker, this team can win ball games with him for 1 or 2 weeks. Let's not push our luck, but let's not trade things for players that might not play a whole lot. Lil Beam, next one up. Who should the Browns look at during the trade deadline? And should the Browns bring back D'Ernest Johnson? And if so, what would it cost? Who should the Browns look at the trade deadline? Let's kind of approach this question by the Browns' biggest needs going into the trade deadline. They're good defensively. I don't think you have to add a single defender. Offensively, work has to be done. Quarterback would be the biggest position if Watson misses time. If Watson's not expected to miss a lot of time, there are some running backs out there. Derrick Henry is definitely a very enticing name, although he has not looked like the 2K guy we saw a few years ago. And there is something to running backs just falling off a cliff. I hate to say it, I think Derrick Henry has fallen off a cliff. Dalvin Cook would be a lot cheaper and would probably get you similar-ish numbers that Derrick Henry has provided so far for the Titans. Rashad Penny had a really good stretch with the Seahawks, but he has done nothing so far for the Eagles. Part of me thinks Derrick Henry would just be too big of a name to pass on, but I don't want to give up a 3rd-round pick, and I think Tennessee wants a 3rd-round pick for him. Wide receiver-wise, I know there's been some interest in Judy before. DeAndre Hopkins has been a popular name. I don't see the Browns swinging for a big wide receiver like that. So to answer your question, if I had to pick one guy, I think as much as I hate myself for saying this, Dalvin Cook for cheap, only for cheap, would be the best bang for your buck. And D'Ernest Johnson, he's RB3 behind a rookie running back in Jacksonville for a reason. He had 3 great games for Cleveland back in 2021, I don't know if that guy's walking through the door in 2023. Before we get on to the rest of the questions on today's show, let's talk about all the dirty dishes in your sink and not the roommate's dishes, your dishes. Because today's sponsor, Hexclad, has revolutionized the cookware industry with a hybrid pan that gives you all the convenience and cleanup of nonstick, the versatility of your grandma's cast iron, and a lifetime warranty just in case you find a way to destroy them. So go to hexclad.com/chatsports for 10% off. Hexclad truly checks every single box when it comes to picking your cookware. They are metal utensil safe, dishwasher safe, and oven safe up to 500 degrees. Celebrity chef Gordon Ramsay loves them. So if you love Gordon Ramsay, you're going to love Hexclad. They are the sexiest pans on the market, so score some points at home as well. Time to stop ordering delivery food and start cooking like a big boy with Hexclad. Real cuisine is not made in the microwave. It's cooked in a Hexclad. For a limited time, get 10% off with our special link, hexclad.com/chatsports. That's 10% off at hexclad.com/chatsports. Next question coming in from Tyler. Drew Lock, oh boy, and Henry, wish we could get Devontae Adams. We won't go deep in the playoffs. We don't have a true number one receiver. Coop is good, but he isn't top 10 good, and he has never been a true number one. I don't know what you're talking about at the end there. Amari Cooper is absolutely a number one wide receiver. Like, he has put up consistent numbers throughout his entire NFL career. He is a number one wide receiver. As for trading for Drew Lock, that's an interesting idea. I don't think Seattle would do that. They brought him back to be the backup. It might say a lot that they re-signed Drew Lock after he lost the quarterback battle. They want to keep that guy with Geno Smith in their quarterback room. As for Derrick Henry, again, big, fun name. Maybe he can have a resurgence, but he has not looked like the 2K guy that we have seen for so many years. I am hesitant about trading for Derrick Henry. Ryan Zupan, what about Nick Foles if Watson goes on IR? Nick Foles is only good in Philadelphia. He is awful everywhere else. If the Browns move to Philadelphia, yeah. Otherwise, no. Next question coming in from Grant. Should the Browns be worried about Deshaun? I mean, yes. Like, the play, I think if I told Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry before Deshaun Watson took the field last year, his stats after, what has he played now? 6 games last year, for 10 games or so, give or take 1 or 2, is not where they probably want it to be. You can attribute blame to a lot of different parties and reasons, but a good fair amount has to go on Deshaun Watson himself. So should the Browns be worried about Deshaun Watson? Yes. From a on-the-field perspective, it has not been glamorous enough to justify what they gave up to get him. It has not been as bad as people want it to be. I think there is a good contingent of people in the national media and even in this fan base that just don't like Deshaun Watson. They don't want Deshaun Watson to succeed. So when he is not succeeding, when things aren't going well, they are extremely loud. And when Deshaun Watson does play well against the Tennessee Titans, they say nothing. So it's just not going to be a fair number of noise on both ends of the good and bad. The bad is way louder than the good is. So should the Browns be worried? If you're talking about from an injury standpoint, not too worried. I mean, if it was really that bad of a shoulder injury, he would have had to have gotten surgery already and his season would be done. But from a long-term perspective, I think it's too soon to really start hitting the panic button. Mark Stevenson, next question here. What do you think will be the key to a win against the Seahawks? Great question, Mark. Key to a win against Seattle. Their pass rush has not been good this year. So I want to see this Browns offensive line start flipping pancakes. I want IHOP in Seattle. I don't know if Seattle has IHOP, but we will open up the first one at Lumen Field. This has to be a game where the Browns win in the trenches, right? They won in the trenches against the 49ers. They kind of got pushed around at times against the Indianapolis Colts. Like, Ethan Posick on the first run for Jerome Ford was awesome. But DeForest Buckner got his fair share of licks in, and he's going to do that. But I want to see Cleveland win in the trenches. So what will be key for the Browns if they don't have a healthy Deshaun Watson or they have a mediocre at best, and that's being generous, to P.J. Walker starting? That's the game where the offensive line goes, we will pick up the tab on this one. We got this one. We're going to create big rushing holes for our running backs. We're going to give P.J. Walker time, and the receivers are going to get open with all that extra time. That's going to be key for Cleveland. They have to dominate a matchup that's already in their favor with Seattle's lack of a pass rush and the Browns' superior offensive line. Cool guy called Zone. Who do you think will be our QB in our future after Watson? DTR. I mean, cool guy. I appreciate the creativity in this question, but we are genuinely talking years down the line. Like, the Browns invested in Deshaun Watson and gave him a 5-year contract. They are in year 2 of that. I don't think they have any plans to move on from Deshaun Watson before the end of year 5. I have no idea who's even going to be in the draft at that point. So I can't give you a real answer. It could be in high school, honestly. Yeah, who knows? Kendrick, next one up. Matthew, P.J. Walker or Deshaun Watson? I like the way P.J. is looking. You are? P.J. Walker, don't get me wrong, has put up nice drives in the fourth quarter against the 49ers and the Colts to get the Browns into scoring position. But every other time he steps on the field, I threw up a little bit on the inside. So I would rather have Deshaun Watson over P.J. Walker. Even if healthy quarterbacks, it's Deshaun Watson no matter what. So you guys can pick a quarterback, Watson or Walker. We'll kind of end on this question, but I will take Deshaun Watson. I understand P.J. Walker has gotten it done in the clutch against the Colts and the 49ers. But again, I just feel like they are flying way too close to the sun to ask P.J. Walker to pull off these types of wins every single week.